Let's face it, we all have that difficult thing we know we must do, but we keep avoiding it. It might be studying for an exam, or going to the gym, reading more books, finding a way to make more money, starting a new project. It doesn't really matter. Because when things get difficult, we usually say, oh, I'm a procrastinator, or I'm just not disciplined enough. And the time you should be using to do those things, you end up using to scroll endlessly on your phone. But what is life if not a journey in which you are born, do difficult things along the way, and then you die, right? So my question to you is, since you can't avoid doing the difficult things, is it possible to do them without making them even harder? Or better yet, is it possible to have fun while doing the inevitable difficult things of life? Well, yes it is, and I'm here to show you the 4 fuck it rule that will help you to do that. But beware, these 4 simple steps that I'm about to show you, they were all based exclusively on my own experience and not on some Harvard research. And that's why they're very practical and might actually help you. So, let's get to it. Rule fuck it number 1. Fuck hard work. See it as a game. You know, I think we have romanticized a little too much the idea of hard work. And by hard work, I mean no pain, no gain. You know, that philosophy that tells you that even though your life is terrible, you have got to get through your day. Even if it means that you've got to do things out of anger. And I've said this in a previous video, but if I have to do something, then I'd rather do it out of love and enjoyment than out of just sheer rage, you know? But that doesn't mean that you are not gonna have to dedicate a lot of yourself into your endeavors or that things will magically become easy for you. And that's exactly why I think you should see the difficult things in life as a game. Because why do we love games so much? Well, because they're fun and they're challenging, right? So if you observe any good game out there, you will see that all of them have one thing in common, which is the more difficult the game is, the more rewarding it becomes for the player to achieve its end goal, and therefore, the more fun the entire experience becomes, right? So what I'm saying here is that in a game, doing difficult things and having fun are not 2 separate, distant elements. They're actually only one. So a game is difficult because it's fun, and it is fun because it's difficult. And you know, the same thing happens in life. Because in life, we go through all of these different phases, right? First, you go to school, and then you have your first crush, you get your heart broken for the first time, and then it comes to a point in which you have to decide whatever it is that you want to do with your life. You got to find your first job, think about the meaning of life. So you have all of these difficult challenges that you have to get through, and they force you to look inwardly and to become a better person, a better human being as you overcome them step by step. And isn't that the reason why you play video games in the first place? To level up your character? Well, if you do that in games, then why not do that in your own life? After all, you are the main character of your life. So try not to see the difficult things in your life as a burden. Instead, look at those things as a game, as just another phase, another challenge that you have to get through and overcome in order to perfect yourself. Rule fuck it number 2. Fuck what science says, find your own way. Okay, I know that this may sound a little aggressive, but it isn't in reality. And here's what I mean by this rule. You know, when I was younger, I came across this research that said that people who took notes, they would learn more quickly and more deeply any subject. So ever since I read that, I started doing exactly that. So I would study math, then I would take notes. If I would study geography, I would take notes. Even in my own free time, when I wanted to study something just for myself, I would still take notes. Why did I do that? Well, because science told me to do so. Science told me that that was the best way to learn anything that you wanted. And so, quite recently, I decided that I wanted to study investing, right? I was like, well, I'm a grown up. I have to understand a little bit about this. I have to figure out what I'm gonna do with my money. It's not a huge amount of money, but still, it's better to be prepared, right? So I started studying investing, and that became suddenly very fun. It was like, why have I not studied this before? I love this. And I studied it. I would always take notes, obviously. But then after like a month or two of studying, it suddenly just lost all the fun of it, and I didn't understand why. It felt actually suffocating. And so it became so difficult, dull, and boring that I had to take some time off. And when I did that, I started to ask myself, why am I not liking it? Because I loved it so much, And I understood that I was not liking it anymore because I was taking notes. And taking notes was removing the fun out of the studying process, right? Out of doing that difficult thing. And it was very tough for me to understand that because I had done it all my life. I would always take notes. Plus, science had told me that that was the best way to learn. And it came to a point where I actually felt that I had only two alternatives. Option number one, I would just drop the entire investing studying forever. I would never do that again because I was so sick of it. Or option number two, I would stop taking notes. And I know that looking at it now, it actually seems like an easy, simple decision. But at the time it wasn't, because I was so stuck in that idea that I had to do what science told me to do. So what I mean by this rule is that yes, science is right most of the times. But when you're doing difficult things, science should never come first. Actually, what should come in first place is you having fun. So if science is getting in the way of you having fun, then drop immediately whatever science said. Because the whole purpose of doing difficult things and having fun is to find your own process of doing those things. It really doesn't matter if it's going to the gym or studying. Find your own way of doing them. Because you and I are different individuals, right? I might like literature, you might like math, so our learning process is never going to be the same, right? What works for me doesn't work for you, and vice versa. Therefore, it is up to you and up to me to find our own process of doing stuff, and that's actually where the fun begins, right? If you see that it's like a game, right? So find your own process, and that will become very fun, and you will see that you will learn things and do the difficult things much more easily. And that actually reminds me of the best teachers that I've ever had in my entire life, and the ones that I've learned the most from, because they weren't those normal teachers, that would enter the classroom and just write everything down on the blackboard and just spit all the subjects out, for the classroom. No. Actually, the really good teachers that I had, they would take the class outside. They would make the learning process an adventure, or they would sing a song that would help us learn the subject, or they would show us a movie that would make sense with whatever we were talking in classroom. So basically what they did was they treated learning as a game, and therefore you could see in the eyes of the students, man, everybody was loving it. So the teacher was loving it, the students were loving it, and not only that, everybody was actually learning the subject. Much more than if we stayed in the classroom just taking notes and, paying attention to whatever the teacher was saying as if that was an absolute truth, So again, what I'm saying here in this rule is that it doesn't really matter what science says when you're doing difficult things. All that matters is that you have got to make it fun. And you have got to find your own process. And sure, science might help you to do that, but if it doesn't, then just drop it. Just do your own thing, man. Make it fun. Rule fuck it number 3. Fuck the reward. Don't be too kind with yourself. Again, I know that this may sound like a counterintuitive step. And I'm not saying, just to be clear, I'm not saying that you shouldn't love yourself. But let me tell you a story that will give you some sort of background and context as to why I think this is an important step if you want to make the difficult things fun in your life. So a few years ago, my fiance decided to have a dog. And she got this 3-month-old dog. And he was the most beautiful thing you would probably see in your entire life. He was cute, calm, very loving dog, And I would see that whenever the dog peed in the right place, she would give him a biscuit. And whenever he would pee in the wrong place, she wouldn't give him anything. And I was like, well, why do you do that? And she explained to me that rewarding the dog with a biscuit whenever he peed in the right place was a way to show him that he was doing the right thing. That was his bathroom, right? And so I was like, wow, that's very interesting. And then I asked her, when are you going to stop giving him biscuits? And she was like, well, as soon as he learns the right place, then I'm gonna stop. Well, let me tell you, now the dog is 4 years old and he still gets biscuits whenever he pees in the right place. And you might be asking yourself, well, Patrick, after 4 years, hasn't he learned the right place? Yes, he has. And that's the problem. She keeps rewarding him. And that means that whenever we go out and the dog stays in the house, he knows that if he pees in the right place, he's not gonna get any biscuits because we're not there. So what does he do? He pees in the living room, for example. He pees in the wrong places because he's not gonna get anything anyway. And that's exactly the danger that you will face if you keep rewarding yourself all the time. Because here's the thing, we all have to do difficult things and most of us don't like those difficult things, right? We think they're boring and annoying and dull. Therefore, what do? Well, usually, right after doing the difficult things, we tend to do things that we love very much. So you might go to the movies, you might watch the TV show that you like, go out to the bar with your friends, eat McDonald's, it doesn't really matter. Because you're thinking, well, since I've spent a lot of time making a lot of effort here, then I might as well have some fun. But the problem is that if you keep doing that every single day, you're basically telling yourself that the difficult things you do are even worse, at least in comparison to the things that you're gonna do right after it. Because those things are the things that you really love. And that's a problem because the whole point of this video is to help you to make the difficult things fun. And if you keep doing other things right after it, things that you love more, then you're just wasting time, really. You never like doing the difficult things. But I'm not saying that you should never reward yourself. Do it, but do it every now and then. Just don't do it every single day, right? And remember that the purpose of doing the difficult things is to treat them as a game. So you've got to make them fun, okay? So reward yourself, but not every day. Rule fuck it number 4. Fuck goes. Do it for the joy of doing it. You know, most of us, when we do difficult things, we don't choose to do them voluntarily. We're basically doing them because we want to achieve something, right? Because we're aiming at a future goal that will make our lives become better. It might be getting into the college of your dreams, or losing weight, or having the body of your dreams, or finding the job of your dreams. It doesn't really matter. We always have some purpose in mind. And that is very good because, like we said, not every day is going to be easy. So you have got to have a purpose and understand why you're doing the difficult things you're doing, right? That will keep you going. That will give you fuel to get through the difficult days. However, it can become a problem if you're putting too much pressure on the outcome. Because if you're only thinking about your goal, getting your dream job, that means that all of your attention is in the future and not in the now while you're doing the difficult things. And then the difficult things become only a means to an end, right? And we don't want that. We want it to be fun. We want it to be like a game. So be careful not to put too much pressure on it. The whole idea is that you should treat your present moment, the difficult things you do, you should do them for their own sake. Like in a game, you're playing a game, you know what you want to achieve, you will know that you want to level up your character. However, you got to focus in the moment. And when you do that, that's when the fun really begins. So if you have understood these 4 simple steps, and if you can apply them to your life, you see that hopefully the difficult things that you do will become fun. It will become fun. And that's the whole point of life.